that you don't want to tell an audience what to think, that it seemed that we could track that moment of realizing the power of that. When you did that first theater production you did in Oleana, that there was something, that an experience you had with the audience's reaction on both sides to that play that really made you realize the power of not presenting something in a way where you're telling people how to think.
Yeah, I mean, that was my first job out of drama school.
Yeah.
I was understudying at the Sydney Theatre Company, and then the director saw me and put me in Oleana. And that play hit an audience at the time when the notions of political correctness was just such a violent hot button for people. Yeah. And I was spoiled. Like, I came off every night, and went into the foyer, and people were getting divorced, and there were one night there was a brawl in the bar. Wow. You know, between men and women, and tables are pushed over. It was so exciting, and I thought, this is theater. I said, this is for me. Yeah. It was. I mean, the real theater actually took place in the bar at the end of the night, and I got a taste for blood in a way, you know, that I thought, this is a blood sport. Yeah. And you know, it's sometimes you go to the theater just to laugh, or, you know, to be entertained or to be moved, but when you actually have, you know, you're in something that is just hits people at the right moment. And in the right way, it means that they talk, it's affected them. Yes. For better or for worse. They don't need to like it. They don't need to like you, but it's given them something worth thinking about. Yeah. Or feeling it.
I think that is the best thing about art, or what we do as performers, is that if you can change the way people think about something, or provoke them to think about something in a different way, you literally change their life. Because their perception is altered forever, and they add it to the tools in their head, and that's the best. Yeah. Blowing minds is the best thing we can hope to do.
Yeah, yes,
right.
I know, but that's the thing, is that you just ask the questions. It's I don't have the answers to any of this.
What's your relationship with Shakespeare? Is it good? Do you have a good relationship with Shakespeare?
Well, I did a bit when I was at drama school, but I think my kind of pivotal relationship with Shakespeare, it has to be, it's like, you can't read it, you have to get up and move around and say it. It's a living, breathing. Yeah. Plays are meant to be performed. That's why they're plays. They're not works of literature, they're plays. So you have to get up and move it. So one of the first things we did when we took over the Sydney Theatre Companies, we did was it 7 hours or was it 9 hours? I don't know. But
either way, it's too long.
It was fabulous. And so people would come in at lunchtime, and then they would go through into the evening, and we did the War of the Roses. So I played Richard II, and I played Anne at the end of the night. Yeah. And that was wild. That was really wild. Benedict Andrews, who's an amazing theatre director. When everyone died, we spurted blood on one another and then blew flour on them. It was just, I mean, it sounds like a baking competition, but it wasn't. Yeah. This is the thing with theatre, is when you describe it, it sounds so like, what?
Yeah, but it's the simplicity of the illusion.
It was muscular.
Yeah. Yeah. So you took over the theater. You were director of that theater?
Yeah, my husband and I ran it. It's the theater where we got, we both got our first big breaks, so we've kind of got a long history with it.
And do you still run it? You still
No. We were there for about 10 years, and
oh wow,
it's still going. It's such a great theatre, but of course, with the Australian arts industry, relatively recently, we used to have an arts minister, but then it got folded into roads and rail. So
yeah, I don't understand.
The arts isn't acknowledged as an industry. So they're really struggling at the moment. And people always look at Australia and say, it punches above its weight creatively. And it's novelists, and it's playwrights, and it's theatre designers, it's actors, it's cinematographers. Yeah. Anyway, it breaks my heart.
I mean, it's sort of, you wonder, how does art persist without support?
Well, this is the thing. I think it always relies on the fact that people will do it for nothing, because it's a driving people, I'm sure you'd sit in your garage, and do it anyway. You've got to drive to do it. But it's when a lot of other people make money from the industry, it's like, why should you be considered greedy as an artist if you want to get a little piece of that pie so that you can get some more money to make something else? Because that's the thing, we're always justifying ourselves and having to explain to people why it's important. But what are people going to do with their spare cash? They want to listen to music. They want to go out and go to the theater. They want to go and see a film. They want to gather. And this is what we said is, it's not, they don't just go to the theater district. They go to the restaurants in the theater district. They catch the cabs to the theater district. That's a huge multiplier effect. Anyway, don't get me started.
So like you did 2 Todd Haynes movies. And I've interviewed that guy.
That's not enough. I need to do 2 more.
Well, how was that? Like, what was your experience? Did you know how that Bob Dylan movie was supposed to work when you got into it?
Todd had explained it to me.
How did he explain it to you?
Well, when someone calls you and says, "I want you to play Bob Dylan," and it's Todd, you lean into that conversation. That is just insane.
Yeah.
So, it was great. But when he was talking about splitting his persona, I just thought it was so exciting and also so liberating. I mean, when do you get an offer like that?
But when he told you that Richard Gere would be one of them, did you think like, I wonder how that's going to work?
No, I didn't. Did you?
I'm still thinking that.
Yeah, no, it was out there. But, he came with a whole mood board. And one of the great joys of my life, I was filming I was playing Queen Elizabeth at the time that I was preparing for it. And I watched all of the outtakes from the Pennybaker documentary. There's a section in the documentary where he's sitting in the back of the cab in London with John Lennon. And they're talking, and it's not a very long exchange, and they're just going, that's quite witty. The outtakes, Bob Dylan is so off his noodle, and John Lennon is getting increasingly bored until he finally just starts taking the piss out of him. And none of that, for some reason, made it into the documentary. But it was so fascinating to watch Dylan just slide into this sort of drug-induced coma.
But when you got into that role, that was the period. It was from that documentary. And were you able to understand anything about Bob Dylan that you might not have before?
He was so incredible with the press. Yeah. They just did not. I kept thinking about those extraordinary Hollywood foreign press conferences that one does, and you see the same journalists over and over, and it's quite formal. There's a table and it has a nice tablecloth and sometimes a little bunch of flowers, and it's always in one of those nondescript hotel kind of conference rooms, and the chairs are all laid out, and they were all sitting there and they're all in suits, and he was just riffing, but he was riffing in a way that it was like a spider just spinning little web and then flicking cigarette poetic cigarette butts out, and they didn't know what was happening.
He wasn't trying to win a Golden Globe.
He wasn't trying. No. Unlike me.
He was just trying to fuck with the press. So
he did it really well.
So you played Elizabeth twice, right? The same Elizabeth.
I'm so sorry. Yes, I did.
You're able to do all these different things.
Have you played Elizabeth?
No, not in public.
You could do a lot in that garage.
No, I can do a number of things. Yeah, but let's stick with Haynes, because the other movie, Carol, was a very different movie, and it was a really stunning movie.
Slightly less hairy.
I mean, what does he enable you to do that other directors don't? What is the relationship with him?
He's so fluid, and responsive. And the thing is, he completely envelops you in the atmosphere that he's creating. So he's, which I really respond to. He swaddles you in all of this, swaddles. That's a terrible word. Oh, I can't believe I use that word. No, but he really surrounds you in all of the images and the visual references. And also he gives you a soundscape, like the amount of playlists that he will give you.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So you feel like your understanding of what you're in is operating on a whole different level, and so I just really respond to that, because sometimes the connections you make to a story or a character, it's non-linear. It's like out of one strange space continuum into another, and you can't. That's why I find it's so hard to talk about. It's because it happens in a moment between people, and you're not quite sure why it works, but it has,
right.
Or it hasn't in my case, and then the editors can fix it.
I don't. I'm not buying this weird kind of self-flagellation.
My therapist buys it.
Well, yeah. Well, that's what you're paying them to do.
I pay him quite a lot of money to buy it.
Yeah. You're paying them to listen to you repeat yourself over and over again.
Exactly. But this has been. Thank you for this session. How long have we done? Surely you're going to say thank you very much and just hang up. That's
in a couple minutes. Now we're going to have an easier dismount. It'll be a nicer farewell this time. Yeah.
Okay.
But in terms of you playing things, it seemingly can do anything from any period. Do you approach everything the same way, that these are just people basically in relationship with other people?
It's just a conversation, isn't it?
Right.
It depends who you're talking to. So if you're talking to Taika Waititi, you sort of talk slightly more differently than if you're talking to Terrence Malick or Claire Denis, or those. It just depends.
Terrence Malick, is that a difficult conversation?
It's often a full of yes. It's you often just stand in the presence of. He is such a wonderful filmmaker.
So let's just talk about two more things. Playing Blanche in that production of Streetcar. Now,
it's a very German pronunciation. Streetcar.
You
sound like a German theater critic.
But I mean, when you were given that opportunity to play that character, were you just thrilled, and or were you overwhelmed at the challenge of it?
Well, that was actually in our first year running the theater company, and we were having lunch with Liv Ullmann, and we're talking about working together. And my husband said, thinking, what play can we do? We could do this, or we could do this. And he said, you know what you both should do? You should do Streetcar. And Liv's, her face lit up in that incredible way that only Liv Ullmann's face can light up. And then it was just, I had to do it.
I just realized something when you said that there's this interesting thing about the nature of theater where everybody who's involved with it has a relationship with these plays that are done over and over again and continue to be done over and over again. And no one ever thinks that, that they can't be done again. They think they have to be done again, and they're going to be different every time you do them.
Yeah.
That's sort of an amazing thing. I never really thought of that.
It's very, very, very ancient.
Yeah.
We went to Delphi with the kids a few years ago, and there's something about those amphitheaters, and you stand there, and you stand at Epidaurus, and you stand at the sweet spot on the stage, and you can whisper, and thousands of people sit in these auditoriums, open auditoriums, and there's something shamanistic about it. That we do want to hear those stories. And I'm really curious about what stories people are going to want to gravitate to, not from the now, but stories from 200-300 years ago that speak to the now. There's something profound in archetypes, I think.
No, for sure. What do you think of these? What do you think of the shortening of stories? This challenge of technology, what is this new platform, Quibbly or Quibi or Quibi? I mean, isn't that diminishing the depth and beauty of storytelling, or am I being an old?
Yeah, but if you think about Dickens was published in short installments and in newspapers. So it's like the chapterization of story. It doesn't always have to be.
Okay.
I'm not threatened by that at all. I think.
Have you done? Did you do something for them?
Yes. Well, I'm not. So no, I'd love to. Do you know someone there?
No, but I'm sure
I've got a project. No,
I'm sure you've got somebody who can make the call.
No, I've got. I don't know. I just feel like these things are. It's what you were saying before about everyone sitting at home and trying to make art by themselves. There's something about theatre that's made in front of people for people, and it changes night by night. It's an organism, and I think it's. It's a live experience. I think we're all going to crave that, and Quibi can still exist.
I think you're right. Now, but wait, with Blanche, you're heading into Blanche, And, there are some precedents set for Blanche, but did you